Welcome to another Kamikaze creation video. I've had a little bit of a shuffle in the shed in preparation for the new motor, as much as it's taken a long time to get that motor happening and built in the right way with the right parts. It's been a massive learning process for me. As my engine builder says, every time you make a change, it interacts and affects another part of the motor, which I'm learning through the process. If ever anyone's doing this, look back through the videos I've done and you'll see that that progression from the start of putting that crank girdle on right through until going to the roller cam and then trying to choose springs. And the latest eventuality in that is going custom valves. So you would have noticed in previous videos I talked about getting the right valve spring for that cam, and in that data sheet that I got off Shore Cams, the engine build, the cam builder, it said to use that Beehive. I think it was a 1219X or something like that. The data's up there. I also got a comment from Chris, I think it was, on YouTube. He's been through the same process and suggested not to use the double springs that I had bought. A little bit controversial, saying that the I think I rang it was another cam mob to get those springs, and he's basically saying that just to get a sale, that's the spring they would sell you. Apparently they generate a bit of heat, not 100% sure there, but I know they weren't the right spring for that cam, so I really started to second guess that. And the biggest thing there was that install height, that 1 inch 650 thou to the 1.8 inch install height was the biggest issue to get those springs working. And our solution around that has been to go for a custom stainless steel valve. So I'm getting them made. They're not an off-the-shelf thing. They've been made for my engine, for that cam, that roller cam, and to get the right spring pressure on the rocker and on the valves. So they're happening. Stainless steel, custom-made valve springs. Now the big issue with them, as I said, everything interacts. The Beehive spring that I'm using is basically off an LS motor, and the shank or the shaft on the valve of an LS is about, I'm only giving you approximates here, but about 9 mil, where on the 202, the old Holden 6, they're about 7 mil. They're not perfectly accurate, but that gives you a bit of an indication. Now I got the Beehives, and when we unboxed them and had a look at them, the difference in the spring to the double spring meant that we needed new spring retainers and collets. So I've commissioned my engine builder to go and chase that up, because he's got all of the data. Again, that'll be from Performance Warehouse, and we'll get the right retainer and collets to make those Beehives work with the new custom stainless steel valves. Now it should be pretty nice. The valves in the Yellow Terror, pretty stock standard. They're nothing special. He did say I could get these stainless valves nitrided for about 10 bucks each extra. He didn't see that there was a real need for that, but for 10 bucks I may do that anyway. So that's where we're at with the motor. That was just last week. I was down talking to him about them. We're just in the process of ring gapping and getting those pistons on the crank, and then it'll be getting that head finished, getting the springs on, getting that all built, And it will come together quick once it happens, but obviously every time I change something or we discover something, we then go back into the order process and delivery process. And we all know with COVID or with that flu bug out there, it's affecting a lot of stuff in the world and transport and deliveries and things like that. So it slows it down. I reckon after Christmas, New Year, we will be getting close to that process. I'll go down and check on him again next week, how he went with them. But we need those retainers and collets before we can do some checks and balances to actually determine the actual length of the valve, so we can get those valves ordered. So there's a little bit happening, a little bit to wait for, but it definitely will be worth it. In the process, while I'm waiting for all of that stuff to happen, I thought there's stuff I need to do. I still haven't taken the bottom end out of the old girl, and I've put her up on the hoist in preparation. And what I'm going to do is drop the whole front end. This front end in this car, I rebuilt most of it, not all of it. So it's running Bilsteins, it's running shortened or lowered King springs, and those Kingies I actually took a bit more of a coil out because with the 6-cylinder and the heavy duty spring she sat a bit high. So the look of this car, if you like it, there are images of it on other videos of how it sits. That is a lowered heavy duty King spring coil with one coil extra taken out of it to get it to sit like that. It's running the 17-inch rims, which fit it up under the guards quite well, and the guards have been lipped, so the inner lip has been folded up around those guards, so they sit there quite nicely. So that front end I'm going to pull out completely, obviously the UC front end, and I'm going to use some of the parts that Peter Nash has done for me. Rightio, so down here on the floor, I've pulled this out of the archives. It was down the back bench down the shed. Is a complete UC front end that I've started to rebuild. It's been done in a satin black, not a gloss black. And it's not super flashy, but it's nice and clean, and has all the new bushings done on it. Now, what I didn't do on the existing front end was these uppers, because they're really hard to do in the car. I've done pretty much everything else. I didn't take it out of the car, so I haven't replaced these bushes either. But I did do all of the tie rod ends and upper and lower ball joints and, you know, all of that type of stuff. These bushes are done in it all. But I thought while I'm going, I may as well pull this front end out and build up the new one and use it in the car. So it's all brand new and ready to go. Here's Peter Nash's steering rack that he did for me. You know, Pete has a lot of magical little things that are pretty basic when you think about them, but he knows the technology and getting these things to run really well and drive nicely. So thank you, Peter, for that steering rack. Now I am going to run a double knuckle setup, which was Peter's suggestion. So I do have to take this top section off the shaft, and just to reduce the length a little bit, and then I'm going to run a double knuckle setup instead of that bodgy old steering flex coupling that was in them. So I'll run 2 knuckles, and then that will all run in to this beautiful new steering column that Peter's also done for me. So completely rebuilt steering column from top to bottom, and it's running that spherical bearing where it bolts into the firewall. So as close as you can get to having power steering without having power steering, and it's supposed to steer very, very well with that stuff. So basically I've got to pull the old one out. There's a fair bit of work in getting that out and getting all of this rebuilt and getting it back in. I have got a new set of King springs sitting over here, but what I'll see how I go. What I'll possibly do is pull the old front end apart and use the springs that are in there and the shocks that I've got. rather than cut these down. I'll save these for my LH because I think I'm going to run a 308 in the LH when I start to build it. You would have seen, and I talked about in a previous video, that this whole car is going to run on the Elite 750 Haltech. I bought the wiring harness, all the gear for that. Haven't started playing with that, but I'm looking forward to the change. These things have so many accessories that go with them. It's something for the future that can be built on big time versus the ECU that was running this machine, and we had this car and we had a lot of trouble with it over time, just getting it to work right. So that's where I'm at, guys. Fair bit of stuff to happen. I'm going to start working on this over the coming days. Still got a fair bit of work on in my business, but just starting to move things around and get things to happen. There she is, sitting up on the hoist. She's still pretty ugly underneath. Nothing has ever really been done underneath the car. And it's a bit messy, so as I pull it apart, I'll probably clean that up a little bit and get it looking good. And I'm probably going to build the motor on this front end and slip the whole lot back up in there. So guys, that's where we're at with the UC Torana build and the engine build. It's all coming together. It's taken a fair bit of time, but I'm doing these videos basically for an archive for anyone else that wants to do it. Been getting some great comments, and a lot of the changes I've been making to this build through the process have been from the community feedback. So thank you guys for all the feedback. Feel free to comment. I love that communication and discussion. You know, as the motto says on the video, it's learning and sharing. I'm not the guru. I don't know it all. I've learnt a lot through the process, and tried to document all of that learning in the videos that I've been producing, so they're there for other people that want to do this. Love the Holden 6s. Can't wait to see this thing going together again. It's been a long process, but it is a hobby and it is enjoyable, and I love it when I can get down into the shed. So anyway, guys, Merry Christmas. Have a good new year. Be safe and keep positive, and I'll catch you in the next video.